Welcome back. We're in a most valuable discussion with attorney and CPA Dennis Sullivan concerning health concerns that families confront when dealing with nursing home related issues. Tell me a little bit more about a protective trust, if you will. If I get sick, can I transfer all my assets into a protective trust?
Yeah, absolutely not, unfortunately. Protective trust works best if it's 5-year advanced planning, although it absolutely doesn't have to be the full 5 years, but it's definitely long-term planning. We've helped a number of people with emergency planning, but the protective trust is definitely one that ought to be considered well in advance.
Okay. Now, but what about those people who put off planning and might not have 5 years? Isn't it too late for them?
Well, it's never too late. There are always planning options, okay? But the most effective planning is the long-term care planning. But one mistake some people make is if they'll file an application for Mass Health or Medicaid benefits, you got to be careful. That could trigger a waiting period for a long period of time that's only going to run when you're out of money. So don't be concerned if it is coming up on a nursing home. There's still quite a bit that can be done in the category of nursing home planning that we consider more of emergency planning. So still a lot can be accomplished.
Okay, but what kinds of things can be done to preserve assets when there's a crisis or nursing home care required in the very near future?
Well, if there is a crisis situation, can rely on exempt assets, prepaid burial account, life insurance up to a face value of $1,500. As mentioned before, the home, if it's under $750,000, that can be treated as an exempt asset. Not as successful as if the home's protected for a 5-year plan, but there are those certain exempt assets. In fact, we've helped some clients that had been on an emergency basis as well. But as I mentioned, the most effective planning reminds me of a client that was referred to us by another law firm that they'd actually created a protective trust, or a version, we call it protective trust, 6 years ago with another client. So with another lawyer, rather.
Right.
As we evaluated their plan, we found that the home was fully protected because it was a good qualifying Medicaid qualified trust. Because they were smart to have come in to look at the situation ahead of time. What we found was about $150,000 in total assets at the time, which is about $50,000 over the limit. So because of that, if they had applied for nursing home coverage right away, they would have been denied and have to pay their life savings full $50,000 at the rate of $12,000 a month. But fortunately, we were able to help them with crisis or emergency planning to evaluate, again, some prepaid burial accounts, life insurance options, and eventually Mrs. was able to take the remainder of her investments and protect that with a Medicaid qualified annuity. I think it cost the family about $500 a month, so that was a savings of about $11,500 a month. They're very pleased with that result.
I would think so.
Definitely. You know, that in their case, as we mentioned, the home had been protected, and it was a good thing because not only did she live there, but her disabled son lived there as well. So it was a terrific planning result for that client. But again, they were smart to come in and check things ahead of time. Not only was the home fully protected, but the emergency planning part with the extra $50,000, that was a successful result as well.
That's great.
It reminds me of another situation that a family had started with the long-term planning, but unfortunately Mr. became sick and had to, this was only a year into the long-term planning, so they had to adjust things around and redo it and focus on emergency planning. End result was we were able to protect everything with exempt assets and a qualified Medicaid annuity for the spouse as well. So that not only was the home protected on an emergency basis, but also the life savings for her as well. It's very important because they're like many clients, you know, a modest savings that accumulated over their lifetime. He'd worked with these clients for a number of years, and unfortunately he'd gotten sick with a stroke. So it's very important to save as much as possible for his wife at home, so that she had was taken care of for the rest of her life, and then eventually down the road would not lose things if she had to go to a nursing home as well. So sometimes the best of planning is with at least 5 years in advance, but sometimes it's a combination of some things are protected, some things need to be protected on an emergency basis. Sometimes everything's got to be addressed for the family on a full emergency basis. So it's never too late to plan, but it's a lot more of an effective result for the family in terms of protecting the home, life savings, spouse at home, and eventually a successful legacy for children down the road. So there's a lot to it. And the sooner a family can act, the better the overall result is going to be.
You have tremendous reward in what you do, don't you?
It's very rewarding to be able to help people understand an important area, especially with the finances and taxes changing. But our approach has always been one keyed in on education, and people really appreciate the value in seeing the opportunities to protect most important things for family, the homes, spouses, life savings, and leave things for children and grandchildren. So although things are always changing in the law, it's gratifying for us when people understand and make the right choices that gets them to where they want to go.
That's wonderful. It's really beautiful. Now, what about families with Alzheimer's and other long-term diseases like dementia? It really is critical to plan in advance, isn't it?
Yeah, it is definitely very important. Again, on the free resources tab, we have some consumer guides to help people with Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's. So one is to get education. So an average Alzheimer's stay could be 5 to 10 years. That could cost the family $1 million to $2 million or more. So it's critical to plan in advance. Reminds me of a client that was taking care of his wife at home for about 6 years before they came in to seek help with the planning. Long story, they'd gotten into a disagreement with another attorney, and in any event, when they came in to see us, it was 6 years into it, we were able to help him protect the home and life savings, utilize emergency or crisis planning. So we were able to help them quite a bit. And she's still at home. We've made some good headway. But unfortunately, in the course of helping them, we've learned that he's become sick as well. And this is common with people with Alzheimer's. Sometimes the caregiver will get sick as well. And unfortunately, that's happened to this family. So we're going to help them whatever happens, but we're closely monitoring both health situations so that we can adjust the plan if needed going forward. But the rule of thumb is much more effective planning in advance, as you can tell from the part 5-year planning with a couple mentioned earlier. Their home is fully protected, don't have to worry about it. She and her son could live there. In this case, and in the earlier case, if it's emergency planning, some things can be done, but not going to come out with as good a result. So it's critical. They changed the law in 2006, and it may change again. If people are able to do successful long-term planning now, they'll be going to be protected and probably grandfathered if the law ever makes it more difficult to protect assets. You know, it's such an important area. A lot can be done and accomplished for the family, for the spouse at home, protecting the home and a legacy for family and grandchildren.
Getting a hold of you, can you quickly tell me how we can get a hold of you?
Sure. If it is an emergency and it's a crisis, want to call the office right away. The phone number at the office is 781-237-2815. But if they've got some time to come to a workshop, they can call the 800 number, 964-4295, or visit us on the website for free guides, information, and register for a workshop on the website as well.
Fantastic. It's been a joy having you on the show today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Patty. Pleasure.
You got it. That's it for this edition of Ask the Lawyer. I'm Patty Grabeau, and we thank you for choosing us as your resource for concerning only the most innovative topics today.